Peace and respect. Welcome to Demolished Doctrine, the beginning of the end of all the religions, all the superstitious thinking, all the bad, non-critical thinking. We are blessed this week to have both BigZebra.com and MacTheHuman. Please do check out BigZebra.com. Link in description. And we have a title. We have a subject this week, guys. Go ahead.
Oh, well, looks like we're going to talk about, at least at first, the 24 elders in Revelation 4:4, which declares, surrounding the throne were 24 other thrones, and seated on them were 24 elders. People sometimes ridicule Richard's belief in multiple Jesuses.
Sometimes?
It seems like the easiest thing to pick on him about, and this is kind of the central verse, I think, that he goes to justify that belief in multiple Jesuses over multiple planets. So it's interesting. I found when I just my first Google result says it's from gotquestions.org, which is a very reliable source. But it says the Greek word translated here as elders is never used to refer to angels, only to men. Particularly to men of a certain age who are mature and able to rule the church. So Richard was about to respond to that characterization of the word, but we also have Blue Letter Bible open and ready to rock and roll.
Right on. Peace and respect to Allah Mahmoud. I hope I said that close to correctly. Probably not. Okay. The first thing I'd like to point out to general Christians about the New Testament is that we only have it in Greek, which you were just pointing out a Greek word and its usage and how it applies and how it can be used. The issue that I have with the way people talk about the Greek is they talk about the Greek as if it's in Greek, speaking of Greek religion. It's not. It's in Greek, speaking of early Christianity. Okay, so what should I do with that? I should say, well, if it's written in Greek, they're using Greek words, but they're using Greek words to describe peace and respect, Marty Camejo, early Christian words, and what were those? Okay, so you've got Aramaic and Hebrew predominantly in that area, right? So I should be looking at the Hebrew and Aramaic equivalent of the Greek word. Now, what's that going to be? Well, first, we don't have record of it. That's the first problem. We don't know what the original word was there that got translated into the Greek as elders. Okay? And you could even be hypercritical and say, well, Richard, you're taking a cop-out. You're like not actually addressing what I'm saying here.
It is a little bit of a
letdown.
Is
this. It is a little bit of a letdown, but it's the truth of the matter. Okay, so I have to say, would you go ahead and read the definition, the Greek definition there?
Yeah. So from the Blue Letter Bible, the Greek word is presbyteros, and let's see, it says. The biblical usage is mainly to say elder of age or the elder of two people. So between the two people, the elder one, or advanced in life in general, like a senior. And it can also be a term of rank or office among the Jews, specifically members of the Great Council or Sanhedrin, because in early times, the rulers of the people, judges, etc., were selected from elderly men. Or of those who, in separate cities, managed public affairs and administered justice. So, and then, it was just a word for elders in a lot of different contexts, it sounds like. The 24 members of the heavenly Sanhedrin or court seated on thrones around the throne of God. That's interesting. So Strong's has comparative presbyt, which means elderly, older as a noun, senior, especially an Israelite Sanhedrist, also figuratively member of the Celestial Council, or Christian presbyter, which is the elder. I don't have anything else. Oh,
Do we
there's
have to?
theirs.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh,
I
you're good. No, there's not.
well,
There's nothing.
if of course, there easily could have been documents, maybe the Gospel of Mark or Acts of the Apostles was in Aramaic and then translated to Greek. But couldn't some of these books have simply been written originally in Greek? I was thinking,
Definitely, some of them were.
yeah, especially the Book of Revelations. So maybe your notion of what the word might mean when used there,
Hmm.
it might be spot on.
Yeah, my contention would be that there would be an oral tradition before
Mm,
there was a written tradition,
sure.
and just like Greek became Latin, became French, became English as the prominent language for all things political and religious,
Mhm.
and is now English. English is the language to know on the earth today. That's the one, and Greek was in that area at that time. So if I wrote a story in Swahili and I wanted to have worldwide sales, I should have it printed in English, and that's just how it is. You know.
Yes.
Okay, so same thing back then, um,
Well,
because we're not changing much. Go ahead.
apparently, for people who study these things, that sometimes when you have a text that was originally in Aramaic and then translated into Greek, there are telltale signs.
Oh,
So maybe maybe it could even be determined whether or not, even if we only have the Greek, whether or not this was originally Aramaic or Hebrew.
Well, there was a telltale sign. It refers to the Sanhedrin, which is a Jewish tradition.
Hmm.
Okay, so what we should do is using Blue Letter Bibles should be fine. We should go back to the Old Testament and look for the phrase mature man. Or actually, all it would take would be mature. No, actually, it's not going to be translated as mature. It's only going to be translated as man. So there's going to be two definitions of man to the Hebrew, and
Hmm.
one's going to be a young man and one's going to be an old man, and we need to find which one is the old man and look at that definition, Mac, if you will, want to do that research. So Old Testament man. So you
right
could
in
just
Genesis, there's a reference to Abraham as an old man. Um,
good, good,
Genesis 25:8.
excellent,
Let me drill down into that.
because that's going to be based in the Hebrew.
Right. An old man, Zakwen. Do Zaukane. Zaukane is the pronunciation.
Can't remember if that's the
And
right
it's one
but I
word.
think so.
Translates it as elders, old man, ancient, aged, eldest, and ancient. That's the same idea, right?
Right.
Aged, ancient man, elder or eldest, old man, men and women, senator. And then
Yeah,
in
some kind of
Strong's,
ruling body person.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it doesn't define them as specifically in the Sanhedrin, but they could be.
The Jusinius is actually kind of interesting. It says the old man, your father, um, or alone, or alone as a substitute, as a, never mind. I don't know what this abbreviation means.
Mm.
Yeah.
Jusinius is
Substantive.
confusing. Maybe
Is that,
it just says SUBST period. I don't know what that would be short for.
I think it's substantive, meaning in content, the substance of it.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. And then the primitive root is pretty much identical as well. To grow old, to be old, to become old.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
what
so here's
context
the.
is the word used?
That's what I was about to. No, go ahead.
Oh,
Go ahead,
okay.
Mac. What do you find? What do you find on usage, which would be above Jusinius
Okay.
and above the literal definition?
Yeah. So. Above the literal.
Above the literal definition will be usages. It'll be a
Oh,
list
here
of
we go.
usages. Go ahead.
Well, there's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Where should we start? The earliest one, 1811. Okay, so it's usually primarily used contextually to just mean old, like old humans, like as an adjective. Is that what we're looking for? And then the secondary use is like an old man or an elder, plural elders, who have authority. Elders as a people, especially Israel. Elders of one tribe after the division of the kingdoms of northern Israel. And then, yeah. Elders of a city.
So far we have older person, mature person, governor, higher Sanhedrin, seated around God's throne. Okay, so this is where you find that the Jews get the idea that the best of them will be rulers.
Oh, interesting.
Okay? That's why they have that idea, is because of words like that. I'd like to point out a Hebrew idiom. You can check me on this. I'm gonna have trouble. You're gonna have to look up the word man elsewhere in the Old Testament to find this, but it's the idea of being of full measure, being fully grown, not being a child at all. Okay.
Okay.
And part of in philosophy within that culture, part of being mature is to be wise.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so like having some experience under your belt and exercising wisdom in all things, and that's part of being mature. Now, what I find majoritively in the Old Testament is that a mature man is a perfectly mature man. He's a completely mature man. He's not a partially mature man, which is why this is always referring back to the very old people, the most senior people. So
Okay.
I'm too young. I'm
the perfected people.
Right. So I'm actually a little bit young to be called mature. And at turning 55, that's on the edge of it, but it's not really into it. And I really need to be closer to 60 to be called mature. Okay. All right. So that's how that would work in that culture. But I would ask of you biblically, who are the mature men?
Right. Well, that's
what age would they be, or is it more of a position than that, like being mayor?
It's both.
It's those that are rescued from death. It's those that are perfected.
Okay, so if you were rescued from death, perfected, could that be subjective, or does that need to be objective?
Well, no, I mean, I guess it could be subjective. You could just...
No, you could have the opinion that you are.
Yeah,
and
right.
Others could have the opinion that you are, but that doesn't mean you are.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
No, yeah.
So there's
I'm talking
plenty of
about
televangelists who are older and mature and respected, and lots of people think they're right. That doesn't mean they're saved.
Right.
It doesn't. They could be full of shit, and I think they are. Okay, so what would it mean biblically? Biblically.
Oh no!
Math pig started. It wasn't my fault.
Math pig. That's funny. Yeah, what was his expression biblically, Christologically? He started every sentence with that. I can't remember.
Yeah,
we're gonna get his attention. Be careful.
Don't say it a third time. It's like a curse. It's like a curse that'll show up on your doorstep. It's a bad penny.
Well done, Richard.
Okay, so yeah, our dying son, biblically, Christologically,
so weird.
More than weird. Well, I think God will bless him, but he'll cry more than you. That's what I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, oh my God, where were we?
Where were we?
Okay, so
Man,
in the Hebrew idiom, to be a mature man objectively is to be okay. You got to do one of two things.
Okay.
You have to accept all grace and deserve it, right? And how you deserve grace is ignorance. But if you're ignorant, you can't be mature.
Right.
You see?
That's true.
Okay, so the only option left is, in order to be a mature man, you have to be self-righteous, made righteous by keeping the law, which is why the Sanhedrin and such are so big on the law. Okay? So in order to be the high Sanhedrin, you need to be justified by the law. Okay, problem. The Bible says no one is justified by the law except...
Well,
come on.
JC.
JC himself. That's right. That's right. So when it refers to JC, it has to mean JC and the only objectively mature man.
Right.
Okay. Wrap all that in a nice pretty bow, and they've got it right. The mature man is seated at God's right hand.
And there are only 24 of them.
Yeah, it's very limited so far.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe there's a retirement plan. I can't tell. No, I'm serious. There could be a retirement plan because but of course this would include all the prophets throughout the Old Testament, that they were all mature men. None are righteous, no, not one. And then Abraham's righteous, Noah's righteous, David is righteous. It just goes on and on about all these righteous people, which means all of them perfectly kept the law. By definition, that's what makes you righteous and not needing grace. Okay? Which makes them the mature man. Which is why you must honor all the prophets that precede. You must. Because they're all JCs. Okay, so that brings it all completely full circle for me. And if you see a logical hole in that, now's a good time to point it out.
Well, what would happen to a righteous man who was like the 25th?
He would do his job, pontificating between the people and the heavens. And then he would be killed. And then he would pontificate 40 more days. And then he would bodily ascend into heaven and be seated at the right hand of the Father, as promised.
But I thought there can only be 24 of them, you see.
Oh, I don't know why you got that.
Oh, okay.
No. There's just reported 24.
There's two ways to look at that. There's a retirement plan. After all, some angels have to fill the beast around God's throne, and some angels have to fill the habitation of God or mercy seat. So there's 3 levels to it. The 24 elders, we're talking about the lowest level of this thing. So there's 2 more places to be promoted to. So, there you go. So would the next Bible read, and there were 25 elders? Did the previous Bible read, and there were 23 elders? Don't know. Maybe every Bible says 24, and there's a retirement plan, a promotion plan. Because when you look at the word, in the King James, it got translated to, and he died. When you look up the phrase, and he died, it actually reads, and he transitioned. Now, they took transition as death because they assumed the scenario was on the planet. So that makes sense, because the end of people's thing and how they transition is they die. What if it's not talking about that? What if it's not talking about their time on their earth, that they live for 1,000 years? Could it be that the 1,000 approximate years that they live is the same 1,000 years of the reign of Christ in heaven? Could that be the same 1,000 years? Could they all be called righteous who live to about 1,000 years and then transition? Could all that be just coincidental, or does it make sense together? So maybe I'm falsely putting those things all together, but it seems coherent to me within that if I say Christ reign in heaven 1,000 years, then transitions, look at how many live to be about 1,000 years and were righteous. Okay. Well, what do you think? They went to heaven, lived for 1,000 years, and reigned for about 1,000 years, and then they died? Doesn't that go against the idea of eternal life?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so there's Michael. Peace and respect, Michael. So in order that it be consistent, then the prophet must be Jesus, because he's the only one that fulfills the law. Fulfillment of the law is accounted as righteousness. None are righteous, no, not one. These are all righteous. These were all Christ's. I know that's like a 5-step syllogism, but
24
that bad.
Christ.
I really don't see a way around it. Like, seriously. I don't see how you would get around it saying quite directly that there's 24. Never mind the fact that, well, let's go ahead and talk about it and include the fact that there are promises to the population, and then there's promises to the Christ. The promises to the Christ are greater promises, but also are the demands on the Christ.
Right.
Like a lot of demands. Like, every Christian does not need to die for God and be resurrected from the dead and continue to tell the objective truth about God. They're not required to do it. They can say whatever the hell they want. Doesn't matter. You can have, what's the present count? I heard recently 33,000 sects of Christianity.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And I looked it up. That looks about right. Yeah.
33,000.
I mean, worldwide. Yeah, 33,000 different sects of Christianity worldwide. So if that's true, they can all think what they want. It doesn't really matter until heaven's arrival, right? And heaven's arrival and the acts of the angels will correct the ideas. Because here's your objective truth. You can see it. You experience it. And besides that, angels are telling you what the truth is. And you won't have a choice at that point, right? But the one who fulfills the law, who is righteous through the law, has to be perfect. And none are righteous, no, not one. Then you've got all these righteous guys. And the text says that Jesus is the only one that's righteous, the only one that fulfills the law. And that the promises to Christ are that he will be given a white stone, have heaven named after him, will carry the new name of God, that he will be seated at the right hand of the Father, given a crown, given a throne. Well, go look at what the 24 elders are doing. It's the rewards of Christ. So how could anyone say, well, those aren't Christ's? Well, I'd like to know who they are. Because someone gets the rewards of Christ. And it happened 24 times in the story. Thinking problems? Any way that you guys see that doesn't follow?
Well, I think I'm not sure if I follow the progression from 24 elders to them ultimately being, if you said they were Christ-like, I might be more inclined to agree.
Okay.
Rather than Christ.
Okay. Well, what would it mean to be Christ-like?
Well, that's a good question. Pretty hard to do.
What if my conception of Christ is that I should that Christ treats everyone poorly, and to make that argument, I cite the woman with an issue of blood, I cite the tables at the temple, I cite these kinds of things where Christ is talking crap about folks and throwing a temper tantrum. And I've heard Christians do this. They go, "Oh, I'm totally justified in my being mean toward other people because Christ was mean." Like, people say that. Okay, so
they do,
so the idea of being Christ-like is being mean, right? And I can justify it from the Bible. Is that what it means to be Christ-like? Be a tyrant?
I hope not.
Oh, okay. So no, that's not the right answer. But if that's what I'm doing and I call myself Christ-like, am I Christ-like? I mean, I'll say it, is Jill Christ-like?
Right.
Probably
well, in that
not.
way, I guess.
I don't think Christ spends as much time online as Jill.
I wouldn't be able to say. He might spend more time.
You could also say the same thing about like Christ or Jesus's fashion, like if you wear the same kind of toga or whatever, are you being Christ-like? Yeah. Sure. Like in a way you are. There's a similarity,
So how do you avoid that? Because all of that would be cherry picking, right? You have to look at the total story of Christ, right? and then you have to be objectively how that should be read.
Mm.
Well, how do you get to an objective reading and not being the Christ? How do you do that?
Can it be done even?
It's like me. It's like me saying I'm Big Zebra like because I use English. Does that make me Big Zebra like? Well, kind of, but not thoroughly. And how could I be perfectly like you? I'd have to be in your head being you. I couldn't be significantly similar to you and not be you. So the only way to be Christ-like is to be Christ.
Okay. Well, you're certainly well spoken, sir. I don't know. It just seems like such a great leap forward, you know?
Go ahead.
That we go from mentioning that there are 24 seats for respected elders, and then we apply human reasoning, and then when we end up with 24 Christs, it just it seems too much.
Okay. I could do it live right now. We have a lot of time. What the heck? Okay. Well, we've only been at this 25 minutes. I'm going to go to the book of Revelation, the letters to the churches of Asia. And I'm going to read you the closing of each of the letters. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Let me see. I'm not good at numerical sequences, so it's. Here we go. Unto the angel of the church of Ephesus, write. Okay. So I'm just going to scroll down till I see Smyrna pop up, the next church, right? And then I'm going to read the last line of the letter. He that hath an ear. Okay, so ear meaning hearing. He that has the ability. Let me share screen. Make it a little bit less boring for people. Okay. Let's see what that looks like on StreamYard. All right. Let me get that where it's big as possible. That looks readable. All right. He that hath an ear, let him hear. Okay, so this is not hear like casually, like someone mumbling in the background. It's not that kind of ear and hear. In order to have an ear and hear means you have to have a good ear and hear it well. It's not just casual hearing, right? So this lends to the idea of not just hearing but also understanding it. Okay? Just like the word see means to experience deeply. Ear here means about the same thing. To him that overcomes, overcomes, that's continuous. The th means continually. Okay? So it's like extending it forever into the future. Will I give to eat of the tree of life? Okay, so eternal life, which is in the midst of the paradise of God. That is, it doesn't happen here. Okay?
And it does exist at this point.
It always existed.
Yeah.
The tree of life always existed in the story.
It's not like Eden was blown apart and paved over, that sort of thing.
Right. The end of the next letter. Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast of you into prison, that ye may be tried. There's the trial by the devil. Okay? And ye shall have tribulation 10 days. So it says how long the trial is, right? Be faithful unto death, and I will give you a crown of life. By the way, all these you and he and things like this, these are definite articles, singular male. All of them. I looked through every single one of them. There is no group here. It never refers to a group. And it never refers to a female. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. He that overcometh shall not be hurt of the second death. Okay, what's the second death? The second death in the Bible is physical death. So he's not going to be hurt of it. He's going to suffer it, but he's not going to be hurt of it, because there'd be no point in saying it if it didn't exist at all. So whoever this is talking about will be killed, and that won't hurt them. Next letter. Interestingly enough, that this person has to repent. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. To him that overcometh, that him again is singular, identity male, overcometh will I give to eat of the hidden manna. What's the hidden manna? Mac, you know this term, don't you?
I mean, I know what manna is in Exodus. It's the divine sustenance that That's God gives
perfect
to his children. Yeah.
Okay, so the hidden manna is the hidden divine sustenance. This refers to knowledge in the Bible. Hidden manna, also meat of the word, also milk of the word. Hidden manna is the deepest level of it. Okay?
Okay.
And it's always referring to some kind of food. The heavenly food. So that's the
not
deepest
normally accessible.
Perfect. Yes. Okay. And I will give him a white stone, and in the stone a new name written, which no man knows, saving, except for, he that receives the name. So it's a secret name given to him by God, and only he knows he has that name. And he is the eater of the hidden manna.
The religions often have notions of persons being renamed. For example, of course, at your confirmation as a Catholic, you're given a new name.
Yeah, that's because of a tradition in the text, yeah.
Yeah. And there's also a phenomenon that I've read more than once, that people who believe in witchcraft, often, while they have a public name, the elder or elder witch will give you a name, your true name, that only you know, so that spells can't be cast against you.
Right.
That's right.
And,
right. This is throughout the planet. This is not a new idea at all. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. I just thought I'd drop that.
No, you're
in.
absolutely right. What you just stated is one of the reasons I believe this is throughout the earth, and the Injil was originally given. The original Word of God was given to each peoples, and that's why they keep carrying these ideas forward. But actually, it also has each religion the intended reader, who is the same reader who will actually need and do these things. Whereas your regular witch and your average coven, doesn't save the planet. And he that overcometh and keepeth my works to the end, keepeth my works. Okay, again, to keep my works, you'd have to understand them objectively and do them. All right? And that makes you a doer of the law and the works, which means you're fulfilling the law perfectly. Keep that in mind. To him I will give power over the nations. He's going to be a ruler. A ruler of what? Nations, plural, as in all of them. And he shall rule them with an iron rod. I think you've heard that before. If you've read Bible, it's talking about there's one who rules with an iron rod. And the vessels of a potter shall be broken to shivers, as I received of my Father. Okay, so here we go. One who received, he is giving to him that will rule over the nation. I will give. Okay? And I will give him the morning star. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. Oh, and we're not done. The promises get bigger. He that overcometh, the same shall be clothed in white raiment, and I will not blot out his name out of the book of life. That means he's guaranteed heaven. But I will confess his name before my Father and before my Father's angels.
So we had a white stone, now we have a white robe.
Yes. He that hath an ear.
Theme?
Yes, this is continuous, which is why I'm reading them all.
Okay.
I think the raiment might mean his physical body. White usually refers to purity and
the white robe represents the purity of the saints. That's a direct quote from the text.
So the white stone would be a perfected Bible, like a Bible that doesn't have any kind of misconceptions in it. Or
look at you all putting stuff together. Good for you.
Hey, ding ding ding.
Because we know what a stone is. A stone's a Bible. Him that overcometh will I make a pillar in the temple of my God, and he shall go no more out. That's interesting, because the Father never descends to the earth during end times. Not in the story anywhere. Even in Ragnarok, Ragnar does not descend from Valhalla. I will write upon him the name of my God. What? I will write upon him the name of my God, and the name of the city of my God, which is the New Jerusalem. He will have the name of the New Jerusalem and the name of God, which cometh down out of heaven from my God. So that New Jerusalem, the same one. And I will write upon him my new name. Oh my gosh, are you kidding? And it gets bigger. To him that overcome, I will grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I also overcame and am set down with my Father in his throne. All of this singular male.
So is that Jesus speaking?
Yes, it's Jesus speaking, but the larger point is, who are these promises to?
And he's speaking to Jesus.
And that's exactly my entire point.
It's like
It's Jesus who received of his Father speaking to the next one who does it.
I mean, that last one was explicitly like, you're going to do what I did, just like my Father did before me.
And Jesus says it too. He says, I do as I see my Father do before me. Through the power of the Father, not through my own power.
So there's some kind of repetition. There's some kind of like, it almost reminds me of, and this is, I hope this doesn't seem trite, but it reminds me of organic reproduction a little bit, like the way flowers, spread pollen and combine genetics and then have seeds and spread the seeds.
Apply what you just said to the following biblical statement. If you have seen me, you have seen the Father.
Right.
And seeds always spill their seed upon the ground, ultimately.
You can get cursed for that.
Yeah.
Some of it ends up stuck to sticky places and doesn't reach the ground.
Yeah, that's true.
Or else they wouldn't, pollination wouldn't happen without some of that. Let's just say they're indiscriminate sexually.
Yes.
But there's almost like a cyclical nature to it. There's a pattern, not just in like the sense of like succession, like royalty. I mean, it is that, but not just that. It's also, I'm getting the sense of like the whole process being repeated, the whole story, the whole human experience.
I completely agree with Ed on this. Imagine those poor first century readers of this letter looking at each other with what the in their eyes. Right?
Right.
And that's true, that would, unless they had prior knowledge and ways to decipher the text objectively. I'm going to stick, he meant objectively in there, understand it, like actually know it, right?
Yeah. Also, it sort of calls into question the whole purpose of this document if people can't read it, or make heads or tails of it.
It's still useful. Let's say, for instance, there were a zebra who was very, very intelligent for a zebra and could speak English.
Okay.
Right? And let's say, just for argument's sake, I had him on my show right now.
Let's say that you did.
Okay. Weirdly enough, that's some kind of confirmation for both talking snakes and the possibility of talking donkeys. But anyway, moving on then.
Yeah.
Okay. Just because you're intelligent doesn't mean you know all things.
I
Because
agree.
everyone is specialized in experience and what they have learned,
Mm.
and they know very, very certain things. Right? What I think the story is describing. No, I want to go a different way with that. Um, if you look at this right now as an agnostic or atheist and you say these are weird fairy tales
Yes.
and they're not true, and we
Mhm.
have no evidence except for conjecture and hearsay that says any of these things are true, and you'd be right. Okay? I totally agree with all that. But you still have the fairy tales. Well, what good is a fairy tale doing you? Well, it's the same amount of good that the fairy tale of Goldilocks and the Three Bears does you. You know, when
Mhm.
you become mature, when you have more experiences, and you look at it as an adult, you say, well, actually, this isn't about talking bears or a little German girl who gets lost in the Black Forest. That's not what's going on here.
Mm.
What's really going on here is it's a message to people when they're smart enough, learned enough to get the idea that you should treat with equality those very different from you because they're sentient too.
Mm.
You shouldn't just take from them indiscriminately whatever you want because they're different and you're somehow better. You're not better. So
That's the lesson. Yeah.
that's the lesson there. Okay. But what you were lacking as a child, you came to experience as an adult, and you don't look at the fairy tale the same way anymore. But that took different experiences. Within the story of the fairy tales is an intervention by the angelic where they do that very thing. They purposefully have withheld and then give an experience which makes the fairy tale flip over into reality. Would that be useful? Well, in some ways, in your mind, you had kind of a heads up. And it proves who they are, that they're the authors. All of a sudden, you've got all of this justified basis for trust that you didn't have before and could not have. Would that be significant to the population of the earth, each of them from within their own fairy tales, from within their own religion? It's huge. That is immense.
Something else occurs to me, too, which is that apocalyptic literature in the first century, if that's who the reader we're talking about, that was a really popular genre. You know, like that would have been like if we're trying to disseminate an idea, just in general, even an encoded idea. You know, picking a popular genre to do it makes sense. The same goes for the gospel genre. I mean, there were tons of gospels going around, not just the 4 in the Bible, you know? People were eating them up, apparently. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was also like, hey, you know, did you read the latest letter from Paul to the Corinthians, you know?
Mm.
If there wasn't something like that going on, too. Like,
I remember hearing that there was a count. Like sometimes we only know the names of various gospels. We don't have copies of them. But
Right.
there may have been as many as 88, which is
it seems
astonishing.
like a really precise number.
Yes. Well, it.
Doesn't
Well,
seem
the
like
thing
an
is,
estimate.
there has to be a precise number because there are some that you can count where someone mentions the Gospel of Zebediah or whatever in a letter.
Right.
And so now that's one, you know, that sort of thing.
Yeah, something people do to persuade each other
Mm.
is never use round numbers. Never use something ending in a whole 10.
Really?
Right.
Oh yeah, you can totally get people to not check your citations
Mm-hmm.
just by using exacting numbers that sound that sound weird.
I'll remember that.
Yeah, you can totally lie to people that way, and I've heard it done.
That's great.
I've known of it, and I've probably done it several times in my life, as a matter of fact. Yeah, if you say something like, this planet is 4 billion years old, they'll go, man, that's weird that it fell right on 4 billion. But if you say 4.38 billion, they'll go, oh yeah, well that makes sense. Yeah, sure.
Right on.
But it's a bull crap. It's a bluff. It's like here. I'll show you a really good example of believability and then total dismissal. It has been shown statistically that 83.5% of all statistics
Right.
were arbitrarily generated and aren't real. You see, like when you get to the 83.5 part, you go, oh, interesting, Right. And then as soon as you finish it, they're like, oh crap, I get it. Yeah.
Speaking of statistics, I had a friend. We're on the phone, and he says to me, "Hey, what's new?" And I said, "What's new?" I learned today that almost 80% of construction fatalities are caused by practical jokes gone wrong.
Oh no!
And he says, "Really?" And I said, "No, I just made that up." But it sounds great.
It sounds
like the idea of oops, oh.
Trying to give you a good answer.
Yeah.
Like shooting nail guns as if they're actual guns.
Yes. Oh, wouldn't that be a great scene?
You can do it. What you do is so probably the most popular brand. There's a nose cone with a hole through it for the nail.
Okay.
That you push up against things, and that makes the trigger possible. It engages the possibility of the trigger. Right. And then you squeeze it, and it'll fire. But it's got this bolt right here that holds that foot on. So what you do is you hold it up like a regular gun. You grab hold of that bolt with your finger. You pull the bolt back, and you can shoot it.
But how far could it go and still inject a nail into a human? 10 feet or something.
Okay, I've on Pass Load brand, which is the most popular nail gun brand.
Yeah.
You can get it to stick in a board about a half an inch to 3/4 of an inch, depending on the density of the board, from about 20 feet away.
20 feet away. Wow.
Dude, it's hitting at 105 psi. It pushes back a spring which is every bit as strong as a spring on a suspension of your car.
Wow.
And then when you hit the trigger, it releases the air, and that spring drives the pin forward, which drives the nail. And that nail is coming out of there where in spruce, it will take a 2.5-inch nail and drive it completely into the wood, plus about a 1/4 inch.
Man.
The head of the nail will be sunk in a 1/4 of an inch. I'm not kidding you.
We're going to need a demonstration.
Would the Romans have used those nails to help crucify people if they had them?
Oh, they definitely would have. Saved so much time.
They'd pull through.
They would have used the Milwaukee brand nail guns.
Milwaukee sucks.
I know.
Why would they go to Harbor Freight for their tools?
Milwaukee is not carried at Harbor Freight. That is not true at all.
I didn't know that. I have
Milwaukee
is
actually high end, and Harbor Freight is a discount store with low end tools.
Oh, okay.
Okay, which is great if you just need to smash something with no precision. Go buy a smasher thing from Harbor Freight. If you need a pry bar, which is also very low precision, Harbor Freight, great.
Right, exactly.
You don't buy power tools with motors in them from Harbor Freight. You just don't. Although they did recently come out with a brand that looks like, for the price, fairly reliable.
Okay.
Bauer. But Milwaukee Tools is a very old American tool company, which has a reputation for making very high-end, very reliable tools. And when you get their standard stuff, they're well-established. They've been making it for 20-plus years stuff. Great tools. But they decided they had enough money in establishment that they started, looking into futures of possible markets and experimenting into them. So they made things like power tools that run on a butane cartridge.
Oh,
Holy
that's
shit.
interesting.
Yeah, and actually, while you're holding it, it's got a little flame inside of it.
Wow.
And then the explosion of the butane is the driver for the whatever
Holy
purpose.
crap.
Yes.
That
Now,
sounds
what
like
does
real
that do?
steampunk.
Well, they're really streamlined because it's powered by a butane cylinder, which is only about that big, right? Which is smaller than a battery. Okay, so pretty
cool.
smart, sort of.
Yeah.
The only problem is the ignition system on them. It doesn't always work. So you go to use the tool and it does nothing, and the next time you pick it up, it works fine. It's like, this is gonna make me nuts. Like, no.
It's like trying to start a lighter.
Oh, man. So would Jesus be a precision instrument or a smashing tool?
Okay, well, in the three instances that people who are hateful like to quote, he's being a smashing tool.
Right, okay.
But normally of high precision.
Excellent. Oh, excuse me. Sorry, I'm getting a little yawny here, just the way I am.
I loved Yanni. I miss Yanni. Whatever happened to that guy?
Oh, the pan flute guy?
So soothing.
Well, he was also a classically trained musician who played piano. But yeah, that guy.
I have no idea, man. Maybe he joined one of those ghost hunting shows.
I do not know.
I just made that up. I don't know if that's true.
Sometimes people disappear that way.
A lot of washed up celebrities doing the ghost hunting.
Excellent.
What do you, as a guy from the publishing industry, Zebra, or as a Zebra from the publishing industry, what do you think about this idea of like literature being planted in humanity so that eventually the mature could reflect on that literature and find greater knowledge there?
Well, I can tell you that idea of planting literature and stories for the faithful has occurred in the science fiction book Dune, and to aid the Bene Gesserit, so that wherever they went, there would be legends about religious sisters showing up and helping them.
I remember that.
So, but that, of course, doesn't apply here.
No, it exactly does.
Well, would God? But saying, well, I read it in this strategy in a book of science fiction means that it happened on Earth. It's not a good argument.
Well, no, that's true. Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
No, it's just a
doesn't
good
prove
example.
the thing.
No, yeah.
But it does show that the idea is somewhere in our social memory.
Yes. Yeah, that it does do. But as for the reason why I find this sort of stuff interesting is that people always read holy books and hope to divine meaning and thoughts about the future from them. And here we are doing it here. But I certainly am completely not qualified to come to some determination. I'm just curious enough to ask some questions and think about it. Richard's future sounds pretty interesting to me, so I enjoy hearing about it.
Yeah. Here, me too.
Well, these things are not verification, but can be used as disqualification of a possible future. For instance, in literature, consistency within itself. If Harry Potter, for instance, you couldn't put a place on it or a time on it, and this has been experimented with a little bit and stretched the audience in the case of Doctor Who, where you can't put a time and a place on it, and you can't even put a person on the character, but you can only put an experience on the spirit of the main character.
Right.
That's all you can do, and everything else is optional. except for the phone booth. The phone booth is never optional. What is that called? The Tartarus?
TARDIS. TARDIS.
I don't work in publishing, MathPig. Zebra used to, or still does. I don't know.
Oh, sorry, I don't see the chat. I will minimize the screen and pay attention to the chat.
Well, he addressed it to Mac, so.
Yeah.
By the way, TARDIS backwards is Sidrat.
Oh.
Well, that means everything. Hey, you have any idea what Taco Cat spells backward?
I think I do. Taco Cats?
That's what I said. Taco Cat. Spell it backward. Or just try to say it backward. There you go.
Taco Cat.
No, it's not Taco Cats.
Well, but you said Taco Cats.
Taco Cats?
No, I did not. I said Taco Cat.
Okay, then it's Taco Cat.
Yeah, but say it backward.
I can't. Not possible.
Or maybe you always did. It's hard to say. Maybe I did every time.
Yes.
Okay, so where were we? Okay, so the TARDIS, the time frames. Okay, so if you can't glean context from it, you have freedom to do anything with it, and they have, to the tune of 33,000 Christian denominations.
Right.
They have.
Right.
Why?
Yeah.
Because they can't find one context that works. Which is why I always find that they're always ignoring some parts of the text. Here's a fun one. Ask any Christian for their theory on the seven thunders. And not just, it's in the Bible. That's not a theory. And
right.
no, that there's seven of them. That's not a theory. And that they're thunders. That's not a theory. Tell me what the seven thunders are. And by the way, while you're at it, answer to them.
I'd be suspicious of use of the number 7.
Because?
Well, I think in ancient times there were 7 celestial bodies that were known about: the sun, moon, and a few planets.
Yeah. Yep.
At one point there were only 7.
Yes. That's how many you can see with the eye.
Yeah. But I don't know. Of course, there's significance beyond that, I'm sure. But because what are those things?
7 is the Hebrew number for perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And perfect means perfectly fulfills the role that it's intended for. I would give an example. A brick in a brick wall is a certain length, width, and height. It's a certain hardness. But it could have air pockets all the way through it, and that doesn't change the fact that it's a perfect brick. It could have a lump of gold in the middle, or a diamond, or a clay that never got mixed in with shale. It's still a perfect brick. Because it can be a brick, which is what it's intended to be.
Right.
Okay. So there's the number 8 to the Hebrew, which is fat, or extra strong, or above perfect, which means it wouldn't have those flaws. And is a brick. Okay. So there's perfect, then there's above perfect. I know to the English speaker that doesn't really make sense, but that's the way they looked at it.
I kind of get that. That makes sense.
And then 6 is less than 7, and 6 is less than perfect.
Right.
Which is why the 666. Which is why one of the Jesus lived to 777 years.
Come to think of it, 7 times 77 is the number of times you should forgive your brother, or something like that.
That's not an accident.
Yeah, and apparently 7 times 77 was used as shorthand for forever.
Yes.
But I don't know where that comes from. You'd have to find 7 times 77 used repeatedly in other documents, not just the Bible.
Well, since it's a Hebrew tradition, you only need it from the Old Testament.
Well, okay.
And different people have looked at different numbers different ways.
Mm.
In fact, I never found a 13 millimeter bolt on any Asian car until the last 5 years.
A 13
Apparently, they
millimeter?
stopped carrying. Yeah, they would
They
not use a 13 millimeter bolt. Would not.
Bad
really?
luck.
It's bad luck.
Very unlucky number.
Our dying sun, they may not have had an infinity symbol. So for us, we can say forever or infinity. But what if you don't have a proper word for that?
Let's see. It was the Arabic nation which came up with zero, the idea of zero,
Mm-hmm.
to put in the middle of the number line, which zero is infinitely thin, actually, which means there's no actual zero. But it's just a placeholder, an idea. And then and that was in the Middle East. What? Something about 13 to 1500 years ago, something like that. I can't recall exactly. Sorry. And
Yeah,
then the
I don't
idea
know.
the
Sorry, go
idea of
ahead, man.
infinite is the necessary opposite of that. So you have infinitely small, and then you have infinitely large, and both of them are only placeholders.
Mm. Yeah, I don't know who really invented the idea of zero, if it was the Arabs or the Indians. I mean, East Indians. But
Yeah,
it's ingenious.
it
And
is.
it's certainly, if you've ever tried to multiply something using Roman numerals, you'll know instantly how ingenious it is.
Really, I've never tried.
Well, imagine, holy shit. I
It's a mess. It's a mess. There's a
bet
reason
it
why
is.
the Romans didn't develop much mathematics.
Yeah.
The Babylonians, on the other hand, had a really easy way to write down numbers, and
Mm,
in a way, like the way they wrote down numbers by pressing styluses into clay made it easy to do calculations as well,
mm.
because it was basically just hash marks. So
Yeah.
you built them up, and then 10 of them equaled this other kind of hash mark. So
Oh,
yeah,
can I
stuff
share
like that.
something stupid with you guys?
Of
It's
course.
quite funny. Well, Richard will
Because that's
remember.
exceptional in these talks, right?
Well, Richard, you've talked to Darth Dawkins from time to time, right?
He did.
Okay, yeah, sorta.
You can
I
find it.
don't I don't believe so, but
Yeah. Well,
I believe I spoke to a character he represents in public.
that is an excellent way of looking at it. He's well, there's a guy I really like. I think you've spoken to him too, Dr. Josh Bowen.
He and
And
I are friends. Yes.
well, I did he was on doing a talk call-in show on YouTube. And
Hmm.
so I called in and I pretended at first to be a kind of inarticulate person, talking rather
Okay.
slowly, hoping he wouldn't recognize my voice, but I think
Right.
he did.
He
And
did.
I did a little. Oh, did I share with this with you before?
No,
I'm
I
sorry.
caught it. I caught it because it came up in my feed.
Oh, okay. Well, I tell you what, I'll put it into chat. Mac, you can have fun with watching it. This is a time stamp,
Okay.
so you don't have to sit through an hour and a half waiting to find my call.
I don't
But
know. I didn't know he did this show, so I might want to watch the whole thing.
It
I'm
sure,
a
was
fan of Dr. Bowen.
it was Godless Engineer, Dr. Joshua Bowen, and they were hosting a call-in show. Correct?
yes.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, that's
There are
bold.
two.
I
I
definitely
pranked
want to
him
watch that.
twice. The second one is the one I put a link in here. It went a lot better.
Nice.
Go
God,
ahead
I
and
had
do that,
fun
Mac,
doing
and I'll share it.
that. Okay, okay.
Because
What's that?
I mean, we're over an hour, and I'm just having fun now.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, well, I put the links both into private and public chat, so wherever you want to get it from.
Oh, in private chat, I can bring it up myself, and that will be
Mm.
less routing and be better.
Okie dokie. Let's see what happens here.
And when you're doing these, you just put them in in the major search engine.
Mm.
Oh, okay.
Well, this will be fun. I always enjoy watching this because it's about me.
Well, none of the rest of us are like that.
I know. I'm
Or
terrible.
maybe everybody.
I'm sorry to say that I use my humor a bit like an attention-seeking engine. Here we go.
Who doesn't? I mean, that's how I survived in my youth, was by saying funny things to people. I mean, my mom had 6 kids. You needed to stand out.
Yeah. Okay, go for it, man.
Put this full screen. So I'm going to drop us down. Then I'm going to make this full screen on this side. And let me know. Object only if you don't have sound. Okay?
Hey there, Martin. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
It still sounds like garbage. Can you just maybe pose your question and then they'll answer it best they can, and then maybe we'll do a full convo another day?
Thanks, yeah. Maybe another day.
Oh,
Bye
no,
now.
this sounds good now. This sounds great. Whatever you just did, keep doing it. Do that. All right.
Oh, okay. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, we got you good. So what's up?
Oh, so my audio is good?
Yeah.
Tremendous.
Oh,
Top
okay.
tier now. Top 10%.
Oh, well, this is good news. It's a bit weird to follow Emmanuel. He's a tough act to follow, and he's ruined slavery for me. I mean, he's taken all the fun out of it.
He definitely knows it's you.
Okay.
I had a question. I phrased it to your call screener about the need for the universe to have been created, but I think I phrased it wrong. I'll try and bumble my way through it. Isn't it true that there must be a precondition of necessary ultimacy of all dependent states, and that this precondition must be an ultimate divine being, which in turn is probably a horseshoe crab named Mount?
Can I handle this one?
Oh, you think this is funny,
Yeah.
right? You think this is funny?
Listen, I'm going to have to push
And
back.
don't you dare borrow from my Christian worldview, or I'm coming down there.
So I know who this is, and it makes me very happy.
Yeah, I bet you do. I know who this
Yeah.
is too.
That's so perfect.
Let me just say this, because again, I have to push back. Martin here, if that's his name, Martin. He actually can't instantiate the necessariness of the preconditional possible impossibilities, providing for the necessity of all being, which grounds the peripheral ultimacy of instantiation. So,
Okay, I'm not going to play the whole show, but
No, it goes on for a little bit more, but my call ends.
I'm sure it does. But I feel like I'm stealing material, and I object when other people do. So
Okay.
I don't want to do that. Okay.
I understand,
All right.
but it's
But
been
if you
real.
guys
Thank you
hit
for
that
playing
link and
it.
watch all of it. Yeah, I think Dr. Josh didn't recognize the tonality and nuances of your voice for about the first 6 or 7 or 8 seconds.
Right.
And after that, he totally had you, because I saw the corners of his mouth start to rise up, and I went,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah, I he's a pretty smart guy, of course. So
Yes.
there are telltale signs of my presence that he would
For
no
anyone
doubt
watching
pick up.
this show, if you were to go to my channel, you would see up in the upper right-hand corner on the primary page face, Dr. Joshua Bowen Talks.
Yes.
And there's more than one interaction with him where he was cordial and engaged, and even though everything I say is against his total education,
Right.
and able to consider new thoughts, which I deeply admire in him. And there's some dead philosopher who said that was a sign of intellect. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, he's super bright.
He's also just an honest to God good person,
Yeah.
which somehow, when you're dealing with someone like that, everything is just so much more enjoyable.
There have been people who strawman or gaslit me based on the fact that Dr. Bowen is a nice guy.
Mm.
And they said, "Oh, he was just humoring you." No, I've spoken to him enough, and he has been honest with me when we've been online, off air enough that I know he's not humoring me.
That's funny.
That actually these ideas can be read from the text. They really
if he
can.
was humoring you, that would make him not a nice guy. That's not
That's
what
what
nice
I
people
think.
do. Yeah.
Yeah, that's no.
It's condescending and mean.
Yeah. So really
Yeah.
they insulted him to insult me.
Yeah.
Because they brought into question his
Sincerity.
his genuine nature, his sincerity. Yeah,
Yeah.
it really does. Which I think is
Absolutely.
terrible when they do that. But he's beyond that. He's not going to do that. What he is going to do is say, "I'm not an expert in." He's going to say that, where
Right.
he's not an expert in that.
Right.
Or he'll say, "My doctorate was actually on this particular topic, and that's how I'm a doctor, and I've learned stuff since then, but I know this stuff right here."
Right.
And anything outside of that, he's going to identify that it's outside of that, which doesn't mean you can't think about it.
Right.
So he's going to put that caveat there, and then he's going to take it seriously, unless you're not being serious, which is excellent. All right, guys, we're over an hour and 11. Please check out Big Zebra's link. Check
Absolutely.
out bigzebra.com for more humor. That was a pretty good. Well, actually, I think you're on when you do articles, on your actual .com. I think you put a lot of more time, and I think actually what you just did right there was just an off the cuff. Obviously, doing a parody of Darth Dawkins, and that because Dr. Bowen is so put off by Darth Dawkins, and I
So
can
perfect.
bring a timestamp of Dr. Bowen saying his favorite debate ever was me, and he still says this, so it's still true. He hasn't found one he likes better. Was me, and I can't remember if the quote was Nephilim free or Darth Dawkins, but it was one of those two. I can't remember
wow.
which one. Yeah, because I just totally stayed on it. I totally made my points well, and the other person absolutely could not engage with any of the points.
Right.
Mm.
And so for the other person, it was really embarrassing. I can do better now than I did then. I should do more debates.
You should. I
Okay,
agree.
I've been volunteering for them, but I'm not getting a bunch of takers. So far, I've got on JG's channel, which I am copying these and mirroring these to my channel.
Mhm.
On JG, Certainty Exists. Certainty Exists JG. I should say that in the right order. Is 3 debates I participated in. One of them was with Jesus is Lord.
Right.
It wasn't a debate. It was just a
No.
catastrophe.
Yeah.
The next one was with End Times Teacher, who I think next year turns 5.
Wow.
And all he did was state tropes and tell me how stupid I was through the whole thing. He never engaged with anything at any point. It was absolutely horrible, right?
I didn't watch that one.
Don't.
Yeah.
I've already mirrored that to my channel, but it just shows me being very patient for way too long and then losing my crap.
Mm.
That was the whole thing. It was horrible. And then I did a debate on that same channel with Wesley Curry II.
Oh, right.
Oh, I don't
Now-
know that one.
I wish
Wesley
so.
Curry is a special exception to the human experience
Oh,
because what he believes is true. And at no point did I get frustrated with him or
Right.
because he really means what he's saying. He's actually honest and genuine. He believes it. He is not playing any kind of games whatsoever.
mm,
I believe the man has some kind of something that happened in his brain which makes him not accept reality well, and there's a new reality
Oh.
for the gentleman, and I feel bad for him. Okay,
It's not a
and
happy place for him, I don't think.
it's not a happy place for anyone who experiences something like that.
Yeah.
no.
And
Yeah.
and he used to be some kind of musical genius. You can go
Right.
back and watch his. He was, according to people who know, which I don't know what
Sure. Right.
I don't know that stuff, but according
Right.
to people who do have an opinion on it, they say he was really good.
Hmm.
So he was some kind of musical genius, but something has changed, and he doesn't process reality the same way anymore. And now you have whom we've met. And I'm not trying to strawman the guy. I'm not trying to put him down at all. I would not want to be that. There's a saying, if not for the good grace of God, there go I. I believe that's true.
Yes.
That could have been me. It could be me right now. And I would not be happy about that. I will not
That's
make
right.
fun of the man. And I only agreed to the debate because I want him to have more human interactions
Mm,
and talk to people. Because in real life, if you go around talking like that in real life, people will shun you and you'll be lonely as hell.
That's right.
And I suppose that happens to him. And I'm not going to talk about it enough that I start crying, but
mm.
it's hard. It's got to be hard for him.
It is, yeah. That is really sad.
So I know he's
Ooh.
going to come into my chat and just repeat the same tropes that he's been saying, but it's human interaction, you know?
I think it's interesting that, you know, you go out looking for debates and instead you find these three, you know, individuals who they're all kind of broken in their own way, you know?
Yeah.
And kind of need time with somebody and you give them that.
Yeah.
You know? I don't know. But still, like, it'd be cool to see you engage with some kind of, well, I mean, somebody who could, you know, take you to task in the way that you're looking for. You know?
Right.
So
Right.
I'd like to see that for you.
So
I know you really want
I've
that.
volunteered on Let's Debate, which is a subsidiary of Let's Farm.
Oh, okay.
Mm.
So I've gone into that and made some offers. I need to go back and check and see if anyone's willing to take me up on that offer. But
Okay,
I would literally debate. Here's my maximum standard. I will debate up to 5 scholars
Mm.
about these stories simultaneously with equal time. That's the limit. That's the most I'll do.
So you're volunteering to host debates or to be one
To
of
be
the
a
debate
debator.
types? Yes.
Yeah, to
Participate in
debate
debate,
against.
Yeah.
Hmm.
He's got hosts.
Right. Hmm. It would be
The-
funny to do a conspiracy so that you and a friend get on to debate something really trivial, like whether or not the topping of lemon meringue pie should be browned or not.
What? Do people think there are options?
You see? You see? Because properly, you put the pie in the oven and you brown the. Is it meringue? I can't remember what. You know,
It's meringue.
Okay, so you brown it just a bit, but but sometimes they don't bother. And what I was thinking,
What?
you know, that's like the most trivial.
Who would
Thing.
eat such trash?
You can also use a torch, like a creme brulee
Sure.
torch.
Sure. Well, you get the idea. Have like you work with a friend to come up with a debate topic like that, and then you really go at it, hammer and tongs, and get upset and lash out at each other. You know,
That's immediately where I went with it. I want to go, who are these heathens that would possibly consume?
Mm. Mm. Well, you get the idea. You see how much fun it could be.
What,
But
were you
I don't
raised
know.
in West Virginia? That
Yeah.
you think the tips should be black? Is that what you think?
You see how much fun it could be, but how long could such a debate last and still be entertaining? Could it be
A full
half
hour? Easily.
I don't know.
It would be easy to make. You just have your standard 15, 2 10-minute rebuttals.
Right. Okay.
Close out with audience questions. Yeah.
Oh, there's what the Beck. There you go. The are we winding down now?
Kind of fond of you too, Beck. Just want you to know that. A little bit,
Okay, well, I'm going to sign off.
We're closing it up.
Okay, I'm going to sign off and then.
We were blessed that you were able to make it, Zebra.
Oh, I was glad to be here. By the way, if people are asking, if you go to that line video that I gave you the link for, a helpful person has a comment pinned to the top, and they break down the video with timestamps. And my bit is called Martin with Canada, and it mentions that it's a prank call. So how very helpful. And by the way, Jimmy Snow goes on a couple of rants during that video, and he's hilarious. It's really enjoyable. So keep an eye out for that. All right. Thank you, Richard.
Well, by the way, I thought you did a masterful job, except you need a voice synth. You need to be able to change your voice.
Yes, I've seen those gadgets available. I guess I should investigate.
Yeah, if you ever want to do that again, because your voice is so distinctive, man.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. I didn't know my voice was that distinctive, but I've been told that it is.
Yeah. Apparently, the vocalizations of a zebra not intended to make those vocalizations creates a quality that is you could not confuse it with something else. No.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I do have this weird thing where people have told me about it, where I will pause, sort of in a William Shatner-like manner, and then start speaking again. But, of course, no one does it like William Shatner, but there you have it. All right, I'm signing off.
And we've appreciated you being here today.
Exactly. Good seeing you, Mac.
Yeah, good to see you
next
too.
week.
I wanted to share a real quick story for you that
Please.
I think you'd both appreciate. So, I work at a restaurant, and yesterday a guy came up from the street, a local fellow who asks people for money out on the street. He made a proposition to me. He said that he'd do me a favor if I could bring him a to-go container of calamari. And I said, well, I mean, you don't have to do a favor or anything. I can just get you some calamari. And he was like, well, it's considered squid pro quo. So he definitely got some calamari.
I did not see that coming, and that's
good.
Wonderful.
Isn't that a good one?
I have to. It's considered squid pro quo. That's great.
Man.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. It was so cool to see you again. And we'll see each other soon,
Thank you.
I'm sure.
Thank you both.
Hopefully all three of us make it back for next week. Till next time, guys, I look forward to the day that we're all great friends in the utopian intergalactic society of human beings. Till then, next time.
Bye-bye.